The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and welcome to episode 6 of TopBuilder's Webinar Series. My name is Brandon, and I'll be the one going through and walking you through the presentation today. Now, usually we would go through and do our usual intro, walk you through some of our history, etc. But due to the size of the presentation today, we're actually going to go straight into it. So, first things first, we did do this presentation earlier today. What we discovered is that it's a lot of content, and I can't spend too much time on any one subject. So what I've done is I've added my email to the bottom right-hand corner of every slide. Now, if there's a section that I move too fast on, or if there's a section you have more questions on, please let me know through email, and I'll respond to those emails as fast as I can. Now, due to the speed of today, again, we're going to just kind of go right through this first section. I'm going to go straight to the first one. We started this presentation, or we scheduled this one, because of this formula here. More website traffic equals more leads equals more customers. However, as everyone knows, that's rarely ever the case. Typically, companies are not getting either the traffic they need, or they aren't getting the leads they need, or they aren't getting the sales they need. And it ends up being to this situation where a lot of business owners or marketing teams just say, what do we do now? And that's why we have this presentation now. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss those issues. I'm going to help you diagnose the problems. I'm going to tell you what to do to fix them. So here's the agenda today. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you website metrics, what to look for. Second, we're going to discuss website content. Next, we're going to look at keyword research. And after that, we're going to talk about SEO. Now, I purposely added this section because that can be, those terms are just jargon, right? So what we're really going to do is the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure your conversion rates. We're going to look at how well your website creates new leads or how well your website creates new customers. It's the very first thing we got to do. If it's converting well, you kind of go straight to 3 and 4. If it's not converting well, spend more time on step 2. Once you've improved your conversion rates, then you can move on to steps 3, 4, and 5. So, as a reminder, start off by measuring your conversion rates. Once they're improved, pull search traffic, figure out what people are typing into Google. That'll help you build laser-focused content, and then after that, we'll promote it. And I'm going to walk through each one individually. So, first things first, website metrics. Again, before you do anything on your website, make sure you know these numbers. Make sure you know them for all of your channels. To pull this information, we're going to use Google Analytics. Now, I'm assuming most companies have Google Analytics. If you don't, highly recommend you install it on your website as quick as you can. It is a free service, and it does give you a ton of information that's very useful in knowing how well your website's performing, the health of your website. It tells you if anything's broken, right? It also just tells you who's looking at your content and from where, and if those people are converting. Additionally, Google Analytics has something called goal tracking. And goal tracking in Google Analytics measures completed website objectives. And you can make those objectives a lot of things. For our example today, we're going to go through and look at how do you create a goal for completed contact forms, right? To find this section, go to the admin tab. It's in the bottom left-hand corner of Google Analytics. Once you click that, look in the far right column, you will find a little tab that says goals in the second from the top. Now, actually building the goals, unfortunately, it took too much time to walk through it. We had to cut it from the presentation. So again, if you have any questions or need help with this, again, feel free to email me. Now, goal tracking works like this. If someone were to come to your homepage, they actually see something they really like, they're convinced you are right for them. they go to the contact page, they fill out a contact form. As soon as that contact form is complete, it's going to send it to a thank you page. Now, when that thank you page, when they go to there, it tells Google immediately to recognize them and to track all their stats separately. In other words, it's Google's way of saying this person has done something. Maybe we should look at all their stats to see what they did, what pages they viewed, what order they went in, and what channel they came from or what source brought them to your website, which is going to be our next step. Now, looking at your Google Analytics channels, you're going to find them here. So if you're not unfamiliar with Google Analytics, it's extremely extensive. There's at least 1,000 things to look at, and there's all these tabs. So you're going to want to do is look at acquisition. Under acquisition, look at all traffic. And under all traffic, click on channel. Now, channel is going to show you a bunch of different channel groupings, and I'll explain these in a second. Now, the channel groupings on your screen might look different. They might be in different orders, or you might have some that are not even on there. It all depends on how much traffic you get to your website and from where. Now, this is what each of those things mean. Direct traffic is somebody who went straight to your website without using a search engine or anything like that. In other words, they typed in your URL pretty much straight into the browser and went to your website. Now, organic traffic is somebody that came from a search engine. So that would be Google, Bing, stuff like that. Referral traffic is a visitor that came to your website other than a search engine. So if you have a partner website or directory, stuff like that. Pay-per-click is Google Ads, and social traffic is social media campaigns. Now, I added another row for email and other. There can be a bunch of other types of channels. They're just not quite as common. So if you see those, again, that's just your unique channel grouping. And if you are pulling channel or information from that, you're going to do the exact same process as what we're going to do next. Now, your channel groupings, to the right of them, you're going to see a bunch of content, a bunch of information. A lot of it is very valuable, and I highly recommend you look into those different channels. But the very first thing we're going to look at are the users, and then I spliced in this column next to it in the goal completions. Now, the user count right here, again, I filled this in for generic content, shows us, the percentage of traffic based on channel. So let's, for example purposes, say the top channel for 1,000 is organic, and the second row is paid search. Next to that, once you've turned on your goal tracking, let's say it is contact form submissions, someone's signing up for a service request, or they've, you're an electrician and they have an issue with their electrical wiring, or you're a roofer and somebody has a leak, they fill out a contact form for help right away, and then this goal is completed and was recorded. So next thing you do is we simply just do the math. Now, the purpose of this is to figure out which channels have the best conversion rates and which channels don't. Now, in this example here, the conversion rates look fantastic. I mean, we're getting 2.5% overall, and every channel is operating at 2.5%, 4%. Unfortunately, that's typically not what I see. Now, this slide's a little closer to what I see typically across the board. You have a lower than expected conversion rate. Your lead counts are nowhere near what you think they should be. And most of the time, you have a lower than expected traffic result as well. Now, if this is similar to yours, if this is something that you recognize, you're like, yeah, my conversion rates are not where I want them to be. And just for reference, industry averages across the board are 2.5%. So if you're looking at this and you're like, I'm not at 2.5%, but I would like to be, well, there's a chance, or extremely high chance, your content just isn't connecting with your audience, which means we're going to move to step 2. Now, before we move to step 2, we're going to look at just a recap of this section. So step 1, install Google Analytics. Step 2, set up goal tracking. Next, measure your users, compare them to your goals, and that'll create your conversion rate. If it's low, move to step 2. Now, step 2 is all about conversion rates, and I've purposely highlighted the last part of this And the only purpose of step 2 is to improve those conversion rates. If you have 100 people going to your website and right now one of them is becoming a lead, improving your conversion rates for the same 100, you could have 3 people become leads, or 5 people become leads, or 10 people become leads, right? So it's important to focus on conversion rates first before you spend too much money in advertising. That, unfortunately, if you do spend money in advertising with low conversion rates, there's a chance you're not making your money back, and there's a chance you're going to have a negative ROI. Your return on investment is not going to be there. So let's talk about this for a second. Marketing as a whole is about proving things to the right people, in a nutshell. And we're not going to dive into too much of this. So first things first, how do we find the right person? Who is the right fit customer for you? And a lot of you, I'm sure you already have it defined or somewhat defined. Here is the most minimalistic slide I could come up with to make this simple. So the who is typically just demographic material or demographic characteristics. On the left, we have B2C. On the right, we have B2B. It's the exact same process, but depending on B2C or B2B, you just ask different questions and you pull different information. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. I think most of us understand this concept. So next we figure out, now we know who they are and they're defined, they're documented. Now we get to figure out what they want. Now this is the more important part of this process. Again, this is the most simple as I could illustrate it without getting into too much detail. Let's talk about the variables chart. In a nutshell, think of that target market and then ask yourself, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much does this individual want quality? Or on a scale from 1 to 10, how much does this person want expertise? And you can see in this example, I put quality higher, I put expertise the highest, I put price lower, warranty lower, and timing lower. I have 5 variables here. You could easily have 15 to 20. It depends on your target market and what's important to them. So for this example, again, we're looking at just expertise, just to simplify it. Now let's say expertise is the most important thing to your target market. Now we have to say, what can we do better to prove it? So your own current website, okay, there's a good chance that in your area or what you do, you are the expert. Unless you prove it, your customers will never know that. So it's important that for each of these things, we're putting materials on the website to prove to that customer that we are what we are and they should work with us. So for example, you look at your website and you're like, okay, we have testimonials and we have blog posts that shows expertise. We offer a free assessment. They can speak to our salespeople. They know they're experts. And we have online reviews. That's great. Now to make it better and to prove it more, you could do things like industry-specific case studies or a new webinar series like this, or public speaking events or press releases. Now, again, this is just for example purposes. If you are on here and you do make the expertise claim, just know it is the hardest thing to prove, and it is the longest thing to prove, as in, if you are not current with expertise, you automatically start losing your expertise title. For example, if I came on here and I just explained SEO best practices from 10 years ago, you wouldn't think I'm an expert anymore. I have to prove they are current and up to date. Same thing for you guys. If you are proving expertise, make sure you're constantly doing it, is current, and it's updated constantly. Now, there's another thing in this chart I want to mention is if you're going to look, 5 and above, there are multiple variables that this specific example cared about. It was quality, it was expertise, and it was timing. This does mean you're going to have to focus on proving multiple things, not just one thing. And this really emphasizes the importance of having a good website layout. I actually probably will do a whole webinar on just website layouts in general, because you have to prove each of these things, but it can't get too cluttered and it can't be too busy. It has to be clear, concise, and straight to the point. Now, if your customer, your target market, and you've verified, like you've talked to people, you've done market research, and you've verified that they care about quality, they care about expertise, and they care about timing, and on your website you express that you are the best at each of those three, what reason would they have not to work with you? You see what I'm saying? If you're proving it better than your competitors and you're satisfying what they want, you're giving them every single reason to work with you and thus increasing conversion rates. So at a minimum, if they care about these things, you should be proving each of those things. Okay. However, every company to be effective, especially in marketing, has to be the best at something. I recommend you pick the variable that's the most important to your target market, unless, this is a strong unless, there's a competitor who's bigger than you in your market who can out promote you. Do not say the same thing as them. It ends up being this battle of who's going to promote who. People get confused by who really is the best or who, different brands. It ends up being this huge mess. If that's the case, pick a message that is still important to your target market, but it isn't so competitive, and you'll stand out from the crowd much, much easier. Again, this is something, and I put this in here, it should be front and center on your website. It's something that when they show up to your website and you are making an expertise claim, you would say, we are the experts. If I think I saw one of our friends here from ATI Electrical called Sabrina, and their company is the experts at portable power, right? They are the experts at portable power. It's clear, it's defined. If you're looking for someone to help you with portable power, they're the ones to do it, right? Now, we're working on making those claims, and that's the best way to do is make them very clear up front. Okay. Important note, I've mentioned this already. We looked at 5 variables. There could be much more. For example, you could look at variety and selection. There's customer service. There's ease of use. There's ease of purchase. There's discounts, right? There's salespeople. There's a whole lot of variables customers can look at or evaluate. It all depends on your customer. So make sure you're talking to them, you're having conversations with them, and you're asking them what is important to them. Okay, section 2 recap. Again, we came to section 2 or step 2 because our conversion rates weren't high enough. To increase our conversion rates, first, know who you're selling to. Second, document that target market. 3, document their unique situation, their unique pain points. 4, figure out what they want to see from you. Document your current proof points, and then document what you're going to do, and then do it. Okay. Step 3. Now, for example purposes, we're going to say we've done step 2, and we are seeing higher conversion rates. Now we can move to step 3. Step 3 is all about increasing website traffic. To be more specific, we're figuring out where they're looking. So there's one sentence here. Where do they type into Google to find companies like you, right? So to figure that out, we're going to use Google Ads. We'll be pulling Google research from Google Ads Keyword Planner. Now, I put a little asterisk over the Keyword Planner is free. Technically, it's free. However, they do show you more detailed information if you're paying for Google Ads. Yes, it's annoying. However, it makes sense. They want you to they want to make money off of you, essentially. So you can still access a Keyword Planner, but you'll get information that isn't exactly defined, and I'll point it out here in a second. If you do have a Google Ads account already created, click on the Tools button, be the upper right-hand corner, and this very large menu will pop up. Look to the far left, second from the top, and you'll see Keyword Planner. Now, if you click that, it's going to take you to a new page. Click this button here. It's going to take you to this page. Now, the section I'm highlighting, this is where you're going to type in your expected search term, what you think people are typing to find companies like yours. Additionally, you can change the location. So right now, it just says United States as a whole. If you're a local company or you have multiple locations, make sure you do this based per location. Search results can change based on location. They can change per state. However, if you do go too small, you're not going to get probably enough data to make a very good decision. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. So for example purposes, I use the term electricians near me just for no reason, just picked it. Now, this is what you're going to pull up. You're going to pull up the average monthly search for that search term. is going to tell you a competitor level. The competition is based on historically how many companies have tried to pay for that search term, have tried to rank for it through Google Ads. And to define that, Google Ads are anything that's above the organic search in Google search, and there'll be a little ad statement next to it. So competition level, and then next to that, it tells you how much a company has been willing to pay to rank for that keyword term. Now, the goal of this is hopefully to find a high search volume search term with medium to low competition with a lower bid range. And the reason you're looking for a lower bid range, because if the bid range is high, that means there's a lot of competitors out there that are willing to pay a ton of money per click to be found for that search term. If you have a tight marketing budget, or you are new to Google Ads, avoid these first. Just find better search terms, lower hanging fruit, that possibly do have lower search volume but have lower competition. It'll increase your chance to be found, and also it'll increase your chance to not go against competition. Okay, now keyword research. Now tracking all of this information here, you can export these lists. However, you're going to get a whole bunch of search terms that you don't want. I recommend taking each of these, building an Excel file, and putting all that information into one file. I recommend doing a minimum of 100 words, just because it's a fun exercise to then figure out all the options of potential search terms for you. So you could get creative with it. You can find something that, a good opportunity that you didn't think existed before. Okay. Now this is the next step of this process. There's a good chance you already have a website, and there's also a good chance that there's already keywords you're ranking for. Now pull up those keywords in the keyword research, put them in an Excel file, and then now we're going to go to Google Search Console. If you've never heard of this, highly recommend you look into it and you add it to your website immediately. It's kind of an add-on to Google Analytics. It is worth, again, it's free. It's worth the time and energy to get it added to your website. Here's what the homepage of Google Search Console looks like. And on the left side, it literally says it improves your performance on Google search. It doesn't necessarily improve your performance in Google search. It gives you the tools that you need to perform better on Google search. And then one of them is this. Once we know your keywords and what you're interested in, you can go to Google Search Console. And I did a screenshot here, just a generic one, to show you. On the left side, it shows the search term. Immediately to the right, it shows you how many people have clicked that search term. So again, to repeat that, someone typed in TopBuilder on the left, 408 people clicked it, 921 people saw it, which means there's a 44.3% click-through rate, which means of all the people that saw it, 44.3% of people decided to click on that term. Next to it, it shows you the position. This one is 1.2, it's near the top. Now, if that position is below an 8, a 9, or a 10, you're likely not on the first page of Google. If it's lower than that, let's say 20, you're likely now on the third page of Google, and so on. Keeping track of your position is a great way of figuring out for what search terms you're interested in, how well you're ranking for them. So for example, if we did electricians near me, unfortunately, because I'm limited on the demo data I have, TopBuilder has no results for electricians near me because we're not an electrical company. However, if we were an electrical company and we did this search query, we could filter out our data based on this one term. And what it would do is it would show this information, which I showed before. It would show us the queries on the left, how many people have clicked it, how many times someone saw our Google ad or our Google search, the click-through rate, and the average position for that search term. Okay. Now we have to combine this information. Again, I highly recommend using an Excel file. It's the easiest way to update it and to keep it all in a very uniform kind of format. This is an image from one of our documents. We do these website retreats to help people figure this out. What we do is we just put it in this very simple format of keyword up top, searches below that, competition level below that, the bid range, and then is that keyword even present? If it is, show the clicks and impressions per month, and then the click-through rate and position per month. Okay, if you're going through and your average position is not first page, there's a chance your SEO needs some considerable help. If that's the case, we're going to move on to step 4. Before we move on to step 4, let's do a quick recap. Step 3, the reason we're doing this is trying to figure out how to increase our website traffic. To do that, set up a Google Ads account, access the Google Keyword Planner and Google Ads, collect research for a minimum of 100 words, set up Google Search Console, see how well you are ranking for those search terms. If you're not ranking well, move to step 4. Step 4 is on-page SEO. And I'm going to speed up a little bit just looking at time. This is the biggest section and it's probably one of the most important. On-page SEO is what you think of when you think of SEO. It is the actual page structure of a website. So on-page SEO is optimizing your website for search engines. It all starts with good content. I purposely put that in gold so I wouldn't forget. If you have poor content on the website, as in it's old content or recycled content or content you've pulled from somebody else, or it's just not good content, you could do all these things and it still wouldn't make a difference. It might make a little one, but not a huge one. So on-page SEO is kind of like this, and I sectioned this out. So this is one of our pages on our website. You can see I highlighted the URL at the very top with the arrow on it, and then I highlighted the title of it, and then I highlighted the description below it. Now, each of these things are done purposefully to help Google understand what this page is about. Very first thing we do is we change the URL structure. So I want you to think of your website and how Google looks at it. Google looks at a website, specifically a web page, from the top down. So it's going to start at your header, the header, menu, navigation, etc. It's then going to work its way down, and it reads everything along the way. Everything near the top is what's the most important to Google, and they keep track of everything along the way. The very first thing is the URL. Now, the example purposes here, we have topbuildersolutions.com/keyword research. Again, keyword research is just an example page. We really don't have that page. However, that highlighted section there is called the slug. It's anything after the .com. If you've done your keyword research, you now know what people are searching for. Make sure that keyword, letter for letter, is in the slug. That is the very first step in this entire process, is making sure that that matches what is being searched. Okay, just a reminder, this is what we're looking at. This is what's called the URL. It's in the very top of the browser. Second thing, and I have to distinguish this because I think I got a couple people mixed up in the first webinar. Meta information does help people click on your stuff. A better meta title, it looks like this. So if you go to Google, you're going to see a bunch of this. There's probably going to be about 12 to 15 on a page. And this information here is supposed to be enticing enough to convince those people to click. Now, I must emphasize, you could keyword stuff this. It won't help. Google doesn't look at these anymore in regards to rankings. It looks at them in regards to click-through rates. So if you're a marketer or a website builder, and these are not enticing enough to have a high click-through rate, then Google's going to say maybe the content isn't that good. So you have to make sure that this is good. Google looks at everything. They look at click-through rates, time on page, everything. So going back, meta title, make sure it's custom, between 50 and 60 characters. That way the whole thing is shown. Include the keyword near the beginning of the meta title. So it's just the title. Make sure it's unique to just that page. Make sure it's written in a way to convince someone to click. Again, this is what it looks like. The next thing is the description, and that is the paragraph, or not really the paragraph, it's more the sentence below it. Make sure it's custom, between 130 to 160 characters. Include the keyword near the beginning of the meta description. Again, not necessary, but it tends to help. Google will bold it, so it kind of helps to have a bolded description. Make sure that the meta description describes the page content. Make sure the description also includes a call to action or it's enticing enough to convince somebody to click it. If it starts getting a very good click-through rate, Google will start showing it more. Again, doesn't necessarily mean that Google's using this to rank you, but the click-through rate helps considerably. Okay. Moving on to the next thing. It's called the H1. And this is not, it's a CSS term. So HTML and CSS compose a website. However, it's not that complicated. Every website has a header, or most websites have a header at the very top. It's typically the largest, and it's typically assigned a unique tag. Google has assigned that as just H1 or header 1. Now, unfortunately, marketers used to spam the hell out of these. So header 1s, now you can only have one on the page, because if you have any more than that, Google thinks you're spamming the page or you're trying to keyword stuff. So make sure you have only one. Make sure you include the keyword at the beginning of the H1 if possible. And make sure the H1 is unique to just this page. And I'm going to touch on this again in a few seconds. So again, this is the H1. It is letter for letter what the keyword is. Now, there's also what's called the H2. Now, make sure, same thing as H1, you have only one. However, make sure the H2 is unique and is different from the H1. In other words, the second header in your page, make sure it doesn't match your first header. Again, Google's going to look at it and they're going to frown. They're going to say, I don't like the structure of this. So again, this is just page structure. Header first, header second, and then, so this would be an example of what the second header in that page would look like. So if we scroll a little farther down, this is what it would say. Now, H3s. You can have as many H3s, H4s, H5s, and H6s. Again, all that means is that these are headers. They're just classified differently, and they're likely a different size. You can have multiple of these, no problem. Make sure that these somehow connect to your keyword or contain some sort of keyword synonym. You probably don't want to match the keywords word for word or letter for letter in these. It gets a little too iffy, and I'm going to explain here in a second. Okay. Content structure. Make sure the keyword is near the beginning of the first paragraph. The minimum page length for all of your pages should be about 400 words. However, know across the board, all the pages that show up on Google very first page have an average length of 1,600 words. I'm not telling you to then go through and just expand all of your web pages to 1,600 words, but just know the ones at the front page near the top average 1,600 words. Is this keyword unique to just this page? Okay, this could be a new term for a lot of people here. It's called keyword cannibalization. It's a mouthful. Essentially what it means is if you have too much similar content on your website, for example, if we have on our website, we have construction CRM, and then we have another page also titled construction CRM or best construction CRM, and then we have another page called the best construction CRM. It's almost all the exact same content, almost all going for the exact same keyword. Google's going to look at that and go, this one page is clearly better than the other two. I'm going to show just this one. And it's going to completely just remove the other two. Or what could happen, which is worse, is it's going to look at all three and go, I don't know which one to show. I'm not going to show any of them. So I have to emphasize, if you're writing content around similar topics or keywords, etc., make sure each page is on one specific keyword or keyword phrase. If you have additional content on that topic, add it to that page. Add on to it. So if you're building a first page, it's 400 words. You think of new content you want to add to it, add more content to the first page and make that page better. Do not have multiple pages on the exact same content. It will not help you. If anything, it's going to do the exact opposite. Okay. This is an example of the content. Again, we're creating consistency. We're telling Google this is exactly what the page is about. So the slug, the URL says construction scheduling software. The H1 of the page says construction scheduling software. And the very first sentence says construction scheduling software. At this point, we've given Google absolutely zero doubt that this page is not about construction scheduling software. They know it's about construction scheduling software. However, you have to prove it a little more. Now, this is a good moment to emphasize, don't overstuff your page with your keywords. The recommended keyword density is between 1 and 2%. That's right. For every 100 words, you can only put your keyword in there about 1 or 2 times. If you go to 3 to 4% keyword density, you're getting to a gray area. It's probably not too bad. If you get over 5%, Google's going to think you're stuffing the page. They're going to rank you lower for it. Now, if you have WordPress as a platform, I highly recommend you download a plugin called SEO by Yoast, or Yoast SEO. Yoast is spelled like toast, but with a Y. Now that plugin will look at it'll analyze all your entire page. It'll give you recommendations on all these things, and it'll also tell you what your keyword density is. And for that feature alone, I love that plugin. Okay, moving on. Next thing we got to look at on this page is the image structure. Every web page on your website should contain images. The reason being is it increases your chance that not only will you be found for organic Google search terms, the title, meta descriptions, etc., but it increases your chance to show up for Google images. So if you look at Google, there's the All tab, there's a Videos tab, and there's an Images tab. Now, going through and adding these images to your page not only boosts your SEO for that specific page, but it also gives you an opportunity to be found elsewhere. Okay, images. Make sure your keyword or keyword synonym is in the file save name. So if you're uploading this to your website, make sure the file however it's saved includes the keyword or keyword synonym. Make sure every save name for every image is unique. Don't do, for example, ours would be construction CRM. Don't do construction CRM 1, construction CRM 2, construction CRM 3, right? That's not as bad SEO tactics. Google's going to frown. Make sure they're unique. They include synonyms. Get creative with the names, but make sure they're related to the topic. Now, next thing, make sure the images are compressed. Most images are very large file sizes, and compressing them reduces the file size at the cost of some quality. Now, you can go through and remove about 20 to 30% of the quality, and it'll still look pretty close to the same, and it'll drastically reduce the file size. So make sure you do that for each one. Now, reducing file size just makes the website load quicker, and that is a huge benefit. Google looks at that a lot. Now, next thing is make sure you include what are called alt tags in those images. Every website system creates the ability for you to write out what is in the image, called an alt tag. Now, these alt tags give you the opportunity to not only add the keyword to it, but it gives you an opportunity to express what's in that image. Highly recommend it. Do not skip it. Again, don't miss these steps. Now, link structure. This is actually harder to do than you think. Make sure you include a page and 2 internal links on each page. That's easy. The next one is including 2 external links. For your own service pages or product pages, this typically doesn't make sense. This would be literally you saying, here, check out our services, but if you want additional information, go to some other website. It doesn't make sense, right? However, this works best if you write blogs for your company. If you're writing blogs, it's very easy to link out to other websites, other sources with external links, and Google likes it. It's assigned to Google. You're not trying to just hoard all the traffic. You're genuinely trying to help people find good information. So they look for these things. Now, the extras. And these cannot, because they're the last, and they're also called the extras, they're still so important. Make sure the web page is responsive and mobile optimized. If it's not mobile optimized, Google will not show you for mobile search results. It's just, unfortunately, it's just how they've done it lately. Make sure the page loads quickly. Aim for under a half second. All the best websites in the world aim for that goal. On average, most websites load under 2 seconds. If it's taking longer than 2 seconds to load your page, you have to rebuild it. That's just simply too slow, and a lot of people are going to leave because of it. Now, the next thing, make sure the website is secure. Google looks at SSL certificates, and so do browsers. If you've ever gone to a website and it says this site is not safe, it's because they do not have an SSL certificate. Again, I'm assuming everybody here has those. If you don't, make sure you get one. To get one, just contact your hosting provider. They'll gladly set you up. Okay, make sure the page is updated frequently. Google wants to show current and new content. If you have a page that hasn't been updated in a year or 2 years, there's a good chance Google's now viewing that as just old, outdated information. Go through, update the information, maybe update some of the images, maybe add more content to it, and then Google will then see that and they'll rank you better for that page. Okay. Next statement, do we need to rebuild? If you say yes to any of these, I can almost guarantee you need to rebuild that page. Is this outdated information? I just mentioned that. If it is, please update it. Is this content too similar to other content on your website? If yes, try to combine pages or remove this page entirely. Does this page drive little to no organic traffic? If it's not, there's a chance either one, you have the wrong keyword, or two, your meta description and meta titles are not convincing enough to have people click on it, or three, it's just not built correctly. So be aware of that. E-commerce, does this product page have 0 sales? Again, if it doesn't, it could be a couple different things. One, the page isn't convincing, which goes back to step 2, or it has a bad SEO structure, no one's finding it. And then last thing, is the standard content that can be found anywhere? If it is, either make it better, more unique, or quite frankly, get rid of it. So again, if you answered yes to any of those, fix the page. Okay. Quick recap. Again, this is one of the bigger sections of this conversation. So I'm going to spend a little more time emphasizing this is all about building consistency and pointing Google into the direction you want. So for number 1, check the URL structure, tell them what the page is about. Check the meta structure, convince people to click on it. Check the page structure, make sure it's organized correctly, 1H1, 1H2, and then H3 is after. Check the content structure, make sure the keyword is near the front of the first paragraph, it's sprinkled throughout, but not too much. Make sure you have images on the page that have the keyword in the save name and also in the alt tag. Check the link structure. Make sure if there's an opportunity to include internal links or external links, do that. And then make sure it's responsive, it's fast, and it's secure. Okay. Now, this is something that I've been surprised most people haven't heard of before. This is called off-page SEO. Now that we have an optimized page, you've gone through, you've rebuilt your pages for on-page SEO. Now it's time for us to increase popularity. Okay. Google likes sending people or visitors to good content. It's what keeps people using Google. If they're sending people to bad content, there's a chance you would use a different search engine. So what Google does is they look at who's linked to content, who's shared content, how popular it is, how popular the company is, how many press release mentions they have, how many online reviews they have. They measure good companies and good content based on their reputation. This is off-page SEO. It's all about building reputation, building popularity. So there's two sides to the coin. You might think the on-page, which was step 4, is more important than this. Unfortunately, it's not. If you look at it, of all the information we have collected on Google and how search works, off-page SEO matters equally, if not a little more than on-page SEO. It'd be something like off-page SEO is like 54% of what Google looks at versus, whatever, 46%. So the next steps you take here are extremely important. You cannot skip it. Okay. Again, we're looking at Google Search Console. If you do not have it, this is another reason to get it. Google Search Console is going to show you how many links you have. Now think of links as currency. Think of it literally as money. The more links you have, the more currency you have, the more equity you have. It's literally called link equity. And it shows Google that people have liked your company, you've been around a while, and whatever content you're creating, people are sharing it, or they're linking back to it, or they're referencing it. And that shows Google good things. It shows quality. Okay. First thing we're going to look at are external links. So this would be another website pointing back to your website, including some sort of link on theirs or a button that goes back to your website. Now, the more quality links back to your website, the better, but make sure you balance quality and quantity. In other words, some websites are better than others. So for example, I used this example this morning. If you have a bunch of new websites that you've developed and they're all pointing to each other, they'll do nothing for you. None of those websites have any reputation. However, if a very large, well-known, authoritative website on the web links to you, it's going to matter a ton. So for example, if a press release was done for you and it escalates all the way up to CNN, and then CNN links back to your website, it shows a lot of popularity, shows a lot of authority, and it's going to increase your search rankings based on just that. So again, quality is very important on who's linking to you. This is what you're looking for in external links. The popularity of the site that linked to you. So again, very large site with a lot of visitors. How recent has the link been established? Is it current? Is it new? Is the content new? Is the content current? If it is, it's going to help you more. What does the link text say? Okay, so if a company wrote a blog article about you, and for our example, for TopBuilder, and they're writing an article in our construction CRM, and they hyperlink the text, click here to learn more, it's telling Google that page is about click here to learn more. However, if that company writing the blog made that hyperlink text say construction CRM, that site is telling Google that that page is about a construction CRM. So that link text is extremely important. It's in another way that Google can figure out what your page is about and if it's good, high quality content. Okay. The trustworthiness of a website linking to you. Now, if you're using a WordPress platform and people are commenting on your stuff, spamming it, and they're adding in all these links to it, make sure you delete them or you block those links. Because if a very unreputable, untrustworthy site is linking to you, it can hurt you. In other words, if a very bad site goes to you, Google's going to look at that and go, this one website has a lot of links from very untrustworthy websites. Maybe we shouldn't trust them either. So make sure you're keeping track of that and you're aware of that. Okay. Next one, how many links are on the same page as you? This is a way to reference. This is a good way of talking about social media. Social media pages have thousands of links on them. And because of that, their reputation, the authority of that link doesn't mean quite as much anymore because there's so many links on that page. It doesn't give you that much of a link equity at that point. So we're going to talk about SEO in a minute, but no, it's not going to give you a ton of link equity. Okay. Internal links. Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit. Now, internal links, you need to link to your most important content. Google looks at your own link structure to figure out what content you think is the most important. For most websites, it's the homepage. Almost every page is going to link back to the homepage. However, if you went through and your second, third, fourth, fifth most internally linked page was two pages that you think are the best content in your website, it would then reinforce to Google that we think that content is the best, and they will take that into consideration, especially for that search term. So yes, Google does look at your own link structure. As a reminder, I've already mentioned this before, anchor links, the hyperlink text, be intentional about the text you highlight and make sure that the keyword is in that if you can do it that way. If not, oh well, but if you have the opportunity, maximize it. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about link building exercises. How can we gain more reputation? How can we gain more popularity? This is a marathon and not a sprint. Do not try to do too much too fast. You'll get burnt out. Or don't try to cheat the system. Google will catch it immediately and it will not be good for you. So in other words, take your time, do it slowly. Very first thing is generate content. A great way to generate more links back to you is to get more involved. So things like press releases, Have you been mentioned in the news lately? If you have been, there's a good chance they've linked back to you. That creates a link. How many guest blogs have you written? If you're in an industry that's very specific to a certain group of people, go into information sites for that industry and write a blog. When you write that blog, not only does it create a backlink to you, but it's showing that you're involved in that community and you're linked to all those topics. It's a great way to build backlinks. Another one is directories. Now, do industry-specific directories first. So think of a directory of anywhere you can put a profile. So Google's a directory, Bing's a directory, Yelp's a directory, Yellow Pages a directory, Home Advisor's a directory, right? Get on as many that make sense. Add 1 or 2 a week, and then just do that forever. So especially if you're a local company, make sure you show up as many local directories as possible. Next thing would be partner websites. If your partners have affiliation pages or partner pages, make sure you get on their website and make sure they link back to you. Okay. Next one, online reviews. Huge sign of popularity to Google. Make sure your company is actually getting them. Make sure they're increasing monthly. Now, if you have a bunch of reviews, let's say you get 30 and they're great, 4.8, 4.9, 5 stars. And however, they're a year old, they no longer mean anything. They're too old. They're not current enough. Everything has to be current. So with your online reviews, make sure you're doing 1 to 2 extra a month to increase that popularity and to keep them current. Next thing, are they favorable? If they're not, do your best to bury them with favorable reviews or comments. And then have you responded to each of those company reviews? That's not necessarily an SEO advantage, but it is a good business advantage. Make sure you reply to everyone's online review. Okay, social media. I've already mentioned this prior. It's not a great way to build a bunch of link equity. However, it does create the opportunity for people to find your information and to then link back to it. It's a great way to just get exposure and to just get eyeballs on your stuff, which is why the biggest advantage of social media. However, to tell how effective your social media is, either look at, are you increasing followers or are you getting extra clients from it? If you're getting extra clients and you're also getting extra followers, that means the content you're sharing is good. There's an increased chance it'll get shared. There's an increased chance that you'll get liked. Increased chance somebody will link back to it. Okay. Section recap. We're trying to build popularity. We're trying to show Google we are someone to pay attention to. First thing to do is log into Google Search Console. Go to the tabs link or the links tab. Document your external links. Document your internal links. Now generate more content. Again, content that's not on your website that can link back to you. So press releases, blog posts, guest blogging, etc. Get more online reviews. It makes a huge difference. And then build your social media presence. Okay. Now we're going to quickly recap of all the things we covered today. Step 1, the goal is to figure out how well you're converting. To do that, install Google Analytics, set up goal tracking, measure users and goals, create the conversion rate per channel. If it's low, go to step 2. Step 2 improves those conversion rates. So know who you're selling to, know what they want from you, figure out how you're proving it, and then prove it better. Step 3, keyword research. Now that you've improved your conversion rates, now we're going to work on trying to get more traffic. To do that, we have to figure out where people are looking. So to do that, set up a Google Ads account, access Google Keyword Planner. Now collect research for a minimum of 100 words, set up Google Search Console, search for each keyword in your keyword research, collect the data on how well you rank for those keywords. That's going to tell you what pages you probably need to rebuild first, which is step 4. And this is increasing your search rankings position. Check your URL structure, check your meta structure, check the page structure, the content structure, the image structure, the link structure, and then lastly, make sure it's responsive, it is fast, and it is secure. And now we're at the very last stretch here, make sure you increase your popularity. To do that, log into Google Search Console, open up the Links tab, document your external links, document your internal links, generate more content, get more online reviews, and build your social media presence. And with that, you have sat through the complete guide to maximizing your website. I understand we went through a lot, and I went through it quickly. If you ever have any questions or need any help with any of this, my email is here on this page. I'm very happy to reach out or to answer any questions you have. Again, I know it's complicated. We're going to move on to Q&A. If there isn't any Q&A, I might wait me a couple minutes, and I'm going to close out the webinar. So let me.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Delisa. How are you?
I'm good. At this time, there are no questions, so you've done a good job unless you want to wait a few minutes and give people a chance to ask questions.
You know, I think we're good. I know this was a longer webinar and people are probably ready to go on with their day. So again, anybody left here, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you all very soon, hopefully.